I speak 7 languages, the black boy said proudly. The billionaire CEO laughed, then froze in shock. The boy didn't hesitate. He looked straight at the CEO and said with quiet confidence, I speak 7 languages. For a second, the room went still. Then the CEO burst out laughing, shaking his head as if he'd just heard the funniest joke of his life. He mocked the boy, acting like anyone could make such a ridiculous claim. The crowd joined in, chuckling at the teenager's boldness. But they had no idea. What sounded like bragging was about to become the one thing that turned the entire room upside down. The story began in a glittering skyscraper where the country's most powerful business leaders had gathered. The event was meant to celebrate innovation and future talent, a chance for executives to parade their wealth and scout fresh faces, who might one day serve their empires. Suits gleamed, champagne glasses clinked, and laughter filled the hall. Among the crowd was someone who didn't belong, or so many thought. He was a teenage boy, quiet and unassuming, dressed simply, with shoes worn thin from too many miles. He wasn't there because of privilege or family ties. He was there because a small community group had nominated him, believing he deserved a chance to be seen, to be heard. When his turn came to stand before the billionaire CEO, one of the richest men in the country, the teenager was asked a simple question. What makes you different from everyone else here? Without a flicker of doubt, the boy replied, I speak 7 languages. It should have been impressive, extraordinary even. But instead of admiration, the CEO burst into laughter. He leaned back in his chair, waving his hand dismissively as if brushing off a child's silly fantasy. Others followed his lead, smirking, ridiculing, whispering among themselves. To them, the idea that a poor black boy could master something so rare, something that required discipline and intelligence, was laughable. In their minds, such brilliance didn't fit with the image they had of him. The room moved on quickly, but the boy's words lingered like an unlit fuse, waiting for the spark that would change everything. The mockery didn't end that night. Word spread fast, rippling through the business world like wildfire. The kid who claimed to speak 7 languages. It became a running joke among the elite, a story they told at lunches and board meetings. The boy was reduced to a punchline, his pride twisted into humiliation. But outside their glass towers, in the real world, people began to take notice. Community leaders remembered the boy's sharp mind, his hunger to learn. Teachers recalled how he stayed late after school, poring over books most students never touched. Refugees in the neighborhood whispered stories of how he had helped them translate at hospitals, in courts, at government offices, switching between French, Spanish, Arabic, Swahili, Mandarin, and more as effortlessly as most switched television channels. The truth was, his claim hadn't been a fantasy at all. It was reality, earned through grit, necessity, and survival. While the CEO had inherited privilege, the boy had built skill. Where the CEO mocked, the boy served. And quietly, more and more people began to realize it. The turning point came weeks later, at another high-profile event, an international summit where CEOs, politicians, and foreign dignitaries gathered. This time, the same billionaire CEO was front and center, hosting proudly, his arrogance filling every corner of the room. Midway through, chaos broke out. A group of foreign delegates from multiple countries were stranded in confusion, struggling to communicate after a sudden translation system failure. The room descended into frustration, leaders shouting over one another, deals hanging in the balance, reputations on the line. The CEO, sweating under pressure, barked orders at his staff, but nothing worked. His billion-dollar company looked embarrassingly unprepared. Cameras were rolling, journalists scribbling, the moment threatening to spiral into disaster. And then, almost unnoticed at first, the boy stepped forward. Calm, steady, and unshaken, the teenager moved into the center of the chaos. First, he addressed one group in flawless French, soothing tempers and restoring order. Then, without missing a beat, he turned to another in Spanish, clarifying details that had been completely misunderstood. Moments later, he was speaking Arabic, then Mandarin, then Swahili, switching seamlessly, with precision and confidence that silenced the room. Eyes widened, conversations halted. Even the hardened diplomats leaned in, astonished by the clarity and grace of his speech. In less than 15 minutes, the boy had done what the CEO's millions of dollars and teams of staff could not. He rebuilt the bridge of communication, rescued the summit, and turned impending disaster into a triumph of unity. All eyes turned toward him, not with laughter this time, but with awe. And there, in the front row, the CEO sat frozen. His smirk was gone, replaced by shock, then shame. The very words he had mocked had now become the very thing that saved him from global humiliation. For the first time, he was speechless. When the summit ended, reporters swarmed the boy. Headlines erupted worldwide. Teenage polyglot saves international summit. Young black translator stuns world leaders. Humiliated CEO overshadowed by teen's brilliance. The story spread beyond the walls of the event, beyond business circles, beyond borders. People who had once mocked him now quoted him with respect. Communities that had long been ignored felt pride in his victory. And most of all, it forced a conversation about opportunity, about stereotypes, about how often genius is dismissed simply because of the color of a person's skin. As for the CEO, his empire didn't crumble overnight, but something inside him did. His arrogance no longer looked like strength, but fragility. Investors began to question his judgment. His mocking laughter, once a source of power, became a symbol of short-sightedness. He had tried to belittle a boy, and in doing so, revealed his own ignorance to the world. The teenager, meanwhile, found doors opening that he had never imagined. Universities offered scholarships. International organizations sought his help. What had once been humiliation became the foundation of his triumph. But the lesson wasn't just about talent or languages. It was about seeing beyond prejudice, about realizing that brilliance doesn't always wear expensive suits or come from ivory towers. Sometimes it comes from those the world underestimates the most. So the next time someone tells you what they're capable of, ask yourself, will you laugh or will you listen? Because buried inside those words might be the very thing that changes everything.